let's get on with the story. Let's find out in a moment what's in the box. But when I say in a moment, it's because I need to take a drink of water. Glug, 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 glug. Hopefully, that will get rid of the hiccups. Good. What's in the box? I wonder. Well, I never. Look at this. Oh my goodness me, look at the quality of this fabric. Look at the way it swings to the left and to the right and how you can zhuzh it about like this, how it ripples in this. Oh my goodness, I've never seen such fine fabric in all my days. I'd love to have a shirt made of that. Maybe a hat even. Oh yes, maybe a scarf. Oh my goodness, it's so soft as well. So light. Hang on, so wonderful. Okay, let's put that down over here. Good. And I'll begin the story. Have you heard of Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle? Have you? You sure? You sure you've heard? You haven't heard? Ah, well, they were swindlers, Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle. They were swindlers, they were cheats, they were charlatans, scammers, I don't know, con artists, fraudsters, ne'er-do-wells, mountebanks or tricksters. And Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle were probably not their real names. No. And these two people, they loved to deceive others. And I have to say, they were pretty good at it. Yeah. In fact, they were very, very good at it. Originally, these two, Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle, were magicians. Yeah. The sort of people who would make bunny rabbits appear out of hats. Or the sort of people who could take a coin from behind someone's ear or make people disappear just like that. Or saw someone in half. Ooh, that would hurt. But they found it really hard work doing their shows, setting up in place after place after place, all that travelling, all that carrying around of equipment, putting up posters, charging people money, passing the hat around, all that travel. They were fed up with it. They were fed up with it, and they needed a change of scene. And one day, Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle had their ping moment. The ping moment when everything makes sense. Everything changes for them. They became tricksters quite easily. Yeah. One day, they saw that a farmer was selling 4 cows. 4 cows. And he was selling each cow at £10 each. Well, you and I know, and Naya particularly, who's on a 6 times table, knows that 4 times 10 is 40. £40 is what they wanted. Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle went up to the farmer and said, we'd like to purchase your cows, won't we, Mr. Brindle? Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle, we'd love to purchase your cows. I seem to have left my wallet behind, Mr. Farmer. Mr. Brindle, have you got your wallet on you? I don't know, Mr. Trindle. I don't think I do. Well, they said to the farmer, they were on their way to the money tree, but they really, really, really wanted to buy 4 cows. But here's a plan. Why don't we just take 3 cows off you right now and we'll leave the 4th as a kind of a deposit? That's a bit like giving you £4, isn't it? They said. Not £4. That's a bit like giving you £10 because you've got 4 cows at £10 each. We'll take 3 away now, leaving the 4th as a deposit of £10. So when we come back with the money, we'll only owe you £20 because we've got 3 already. All right, and you've got 10. Well, this farmer, he wasn't the sharpest tool in the box. So he agreed. He agreed for them to take the 3 cows away, and he didn't get a penny for them. Well, now Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle had 3 cows, and they sold one to a very, very rich lord. They said to this rich lord, this cow will not just produce milk, it will produce milkshake of any flavour you want, won't it, Mr. Brindle? Oh yes, Mr. Trindle, any flavour you want. All you have to do is to teach the cow how to say strawberry or chocolate or banana. They sold the second cow to a buyer of fine art, a buyer of collectibles, a buyer of rare antiquities and stories. And they said to him, oh, this cow here, this cow is the very cow that Jack sold for the magic bean that turned into a beanstalk. Didn't it, Mr. Trindle? Oh, yes, Mr. Brindle. A magic cow indeed. They sold the third cow to a scientist who was trying to build a rocket, which was kind of extraordinary because air travel hadn't even been invented at this point. But he was trying to build a rocket. So when Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle came along with a cow claiming, this cow here, it can leap over the moon. Yeah, this is the cow that jumped over the moon. Well, he paid lots and lots of money for it. So they were almost rich. And they became very, very audacious. They became very brave in the sort of pranks that they liked to do. And it didn't stop at that point. They started selling never-ending teapots to people, or moon spoons. You know what a moon spoon is, where you hold a spoon up at night time and the handle grows and grows and grows until the spoon reaches the moon and you can scoop cheese off the surface and eat it for tea, yeah? They sold several of those. They sold 7-league boots, yeah? Ones that could walk for miles and miles and miles. They sold snake oil to people. Snake oil, that's like an ointment that will cure absolutely everything, from warts to bruises to headaches, yeah? They sold lots of that. They sold magic rice pots and they sold donkeys that could spit gold. And they loved deceiving and they were so good at it and they couldn't believe that people were so gullible. That means you'll believe anything and everything that anyone ever tells you. Yeah. And they used to say, well, who's worse? In fact, they said it in a more nasally voice. Who's worse, Mr. Brindle? The trickster or the fool? I wonder. Well, today, of course, they would have been easily exposed. It would have just taken one person to take a photo of them and post that on Facebook. But no, in those days, they had to rely on people's descriptions and drawing abilities. Well, one of them looked a little bit like this. No, his nose was slightly different. And the other one, he looked a little bit like this. So, Mr. Brindle and Mr. Swindle, Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle, the two swindlers, they got richer and richer and richer. And they loved conning people. They loved it. And the richer the people they conned, the more they loved it. And the mightier and the higher up the people they conned, the more they loved it as well. And they would spend their money on fine clothes, and they loved wearing fine clothes. It made them feel like they had landed, that they had arrived, that people could now appreciate them. Well, one day, they were at their favourite place, the tailor's, getting yet another outfit made. They actually paid the tailor on this occasion. And as they were paying over their money, their not so hard-earned money, they noticed a certificate on the wall. And on this certificate it said, "We are proud to announce to all of our customers that we have made a shirt to the Emperor Snodgrass." Well, said Mr. Trindle. Said Mr. Brindle, as a new plan, a new prank was hatched. Now everyone knew who Emperor Snodgrass was. Everyone knew that he was rich and he was vain. That means he loved himself. They say that his palace was full of mirrors. Wherever you went, whatever room you went in, there would be a mirror so the emperor could look at himself. And wonder at his glory and think, oh my goodness me, you are such a handsome looking emperor, aren't you? In fact, he said it more like, ho, 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 look at me, aren't I so beautiful? And he had 7 rooms full of clothing. Yeah. He had 1 room for just his socks and his shoes. He had a 2nd room for trousers. And in those days, they weren't just trousers. They were trousers and culottes or pantaloons or hose. And he also had a huge collection of boxer shorts there as well. He had a 3rd room full of shirts and smocks and blouses. A 4th room with jackets and coats in. Yeah. He had a 5th one with robes. A 6th one with waistcoats, just waistcoats, all of them sparkling with diamonds all over them. And a 7th room he had with crowns and scarves and belts and bags and brooches. He was so vain and he loved his clothes. And do you know what? He would have several changes of clothes throughout the day. Yeah. Wherever he went, he would always have lots of servants carrying suitcases full of clothes, and other suitcases carrying ironing boards, and servants, I should say, servants carrying irons as well, and Corby trouser presses wherever he went. And you know what? The emperor believed he had an eye for fine art. Yeah. He had a big collection of paintings and sculptures. Yeah. Most of it was, pretty bad, actually. Some of it was okay, but most of it was terrible. Terrible art. But he had a group of people called his art advisors that would say, oh my lord, this artwork is so sublime, it's so exotic, it's so scintillating, oh my goodness me, it's so, how shall I put it, it's so collectible. I think you should buy this piece, my lord. It's so wonderful. And all the people that surrounded the emperor were called sycophants. Yeah. Have you heard of that word? Sycophant. You're probably thinking, does he mean sick elephant? Oh, that would be horrible, wouldn't it? A sick elephant, a poor sick elephant. Imagine an elephant with a cold. Imagine how big the hanky would be. Imagine the amount of snot that would come out of his nose. Yeah? Well, that's not a sycophant. A sycophant is someone who says, oh my goodness me, your majesty, you look so good. Oh, you look so fabulous. You're so wonderful. Oh, you're so wonderful. We love you. We love you. You're so clever. You're so clever. Nowadays, we just have a prime minister in a cabinet. Yeah. Anyway, the emperor was surrounded by sycophants who would say, oh yes, you look so good, sir, in that new outfit. Anyway, one day, there was a knock at the door, and the butler went to open the door. And who was there at the door? Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle in their fine new clothes. And they told the butler that they were fashion designers from a faraway country. And they ought to see the emperor because they had something very important to tell him. Well, the butler was very impressed by the way these two looked and took them straight away into the palace to see the emperor. Now, the emperor, please allow me, my friends, it's quite a warm day out there. The emperor was sat on his crown. No, he wasn't. That would be really, really painful. That'd be more painful than a princess trying to lie on a pea. No, the emperor was sat on his throne. Crown, what am I thinking? He was sat on his throne, and it was only 10 o'clock in the morning, and he'd already had his 3rd change of the day, his 3rd costume change. And he was very impressed by the way these two looked as they walked in. And Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle, they did a most extraordinary bow. Your Majesty, they said. Your Majesty. And the Emperor looked at them oddly and said, what sort of a bow is that? Oh, it's a new bow. It's a new bow. We've just learnt this bow. Oh, my goodness me, Emperor. Do you not know this bow? This is the bow of King Caractacus. We learnt this bow at the court of King Caractacus. We've been so many places, but we've not come here to teach you about bowing. We have come here to tell you about a new product we have discovered. Oh my goodness me, Mr. Trindle, would you like to get it out? Oh yes, Mr. Brindle, we have got some amazing fabric for you. No, we won't show you now. We won't show you. We have created the most wonderful fabric. It is so fine that only the clever, only the refined, only the noble can see it. It's that fine. Anyone who can't appreciate it, well, quite frankly, they are stupid. Yes, it's quite a big hit in the textile world, but only we know the secret of how to make it. And at the moment, there's not one person on the planet with clothes made from such fine fabric. Isn't that right, Mr. Brindle? Oh yes, Mr. Trindle, that is absolutely right. Oh my goodness me, the king, not the king. I keep thinking the king. He's not a king. He is an emperor. The emperor loved that. Oh my goodness me. A fabric so fine that only the clever, only the refined, only the noble can see it, and stupid people can't see it. Oh, he didn't like stupid people. He only liked clever people. He only liked artistic people. He only liked people with good taste. Oh, he liked it even more. The more he thought about it, the more it sounded that it would suit him down to the ground. He needed some. He was clever. He was noble. He was refined. He wasn't stupid. Yes, I am very interested indeed in this textiles. I'm very interested indeed. And I can get a new outfit, you say. I can get a new outfit made of this fabric. Oh, yes, I like that indeed. Oh, my goodness me. This is perfect for me, and I would be the only person in the world, oh, yes, your Majesty, the only person ever to have such an outfit of such fine fabric. Isn't that true, Mr. Brindle? Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle. Oh, yes, such fine fabric. You would be the only one. Well, the Emperor was really keen on this. Well, what do I do next? What do I do? What do you want? Well, my lord, what we need from you are several bags of the finest golden thread. The finest bags of golden thread. And we also need about a bag of, let's say, a deposit. Let's say a deposit of 100 gold coins. Would that be all right? Do you agree with that, Mr. Brindle? Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle. Oh, yes, 100 gold coins as a deposit. Certainly. We'll take that now. Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, the Emperor was very keen to have an outfit made of such unique fabric that straight away he got several bags of gold thread, and he got a bag of 100 gold coins and passed it over to Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle. Now, you would think, wouldn't you? You would think that they could leave at that very, very moment, and they would have all that money and all that gold thread. But no, they were arrogant. They wanted to see how far they could take this prank, this joke. My lord, what we also need is we need a room to work in. Yes, somewhere away from lots and lots of people, preferably the tower. Do you think, Mr. Brindle? The tower up there? Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle, the tower would be very good. Oh, and we need a loom. Yes, a loom. Can you give us a loom? Would you agree, Mr. Brindle? Oh, yes, a loom. We need a loom. Oh, yes, a big loom. Well, the Emperor set them up in the tower, a room all to themselves with a loom. A loom is what people used to weave thread on. Yeah, they can be quite noisy. They can be quite noisy indeed. So for days, The only noise that people could hear in the tower was the sound of the loom. But if they put their ears really close to the door, they wouldn't just have heard this noise, but they also would have heard, "Oh, Mr. Brindle! Oh, Mr. Trindle! Oh, isn't he so silly? Oh, he's believing us! He's believing us! He thinks we're actually weaving gold thread!" Well, Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle, they hid that money, and they hid the gold thread. Who knows where? In a cave, in a bank, in an underground vault? I don't know. And after 1 week of, the emperor became anxious. He became curious. He wanted to see some of the results of Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle. But he didn't want to go up there himself. He didn't want to seem like a nosy Parker. He didn't want to seem worried. So he sent his captain. Yes, his captain. Well, his captain was one of the sycophants. And the captain believed himself to be very, very clever, very, how shall I put it, very noble and very refined. So the captain went up to the top of the tower and he knocked on the door. "Yes," said Mr. Trindle. "Yes," said Mr. Brindle. "Can I come in and take a look at your efforts and see how it's going?" "Oh, of course, come on in." So they took the captain into the room, and the captain could see absolutely nothing. But the captain knew that he was clever. He knew he was refined. He knew he was noble. He knew he wasn't stupid. So he looked at the loom and thought, well done. Well done. You've woven perfect fabric there. Perfect fabric. It looks absolutely delightful. I'll go and tell the emperor right now. Before you go, Captain, Your Holiness, would you mind, when you come back, can you bring us some more wine, some more food, and, oh yes, and several more sacks of that fine gold thread we've been using. As you can see, it's working so well, your gold thread. Wouldn't you say, Mr. Brindle?" "Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle. Oh, yes." So the captain went off to tell the emperor how wonderful the fabric looked, how fine the fabric looked, how exquisite the fabric looked. And the emperor, he got really, really excited and started to think what crown he might wear with his new outfit and what shoes he might wear. But anyway, another week went by. All the noise that people could hear was this noise. And again the king, not the king, he's not a king, he's an emperor. The emperor got anxious. The emperor got curious, and he wanted to see the fabrics. He wanted to see if the clothes had been started yet. The clothes had been started yet. That was very badly put, wasn't it? He wanted to know if they'd started work on the clothes yet. But he didn't want to seem like a worrier. He didn't want to seem like a nosy Parker. So he sent his biggest sycophant of all. Yeah, the Prime Minister. Oh, yes, the Prime Minister. The Prime Minister went all the way up to the tower. "Remember," said the emperor, "remember, only the clever, only the refined, only the noble can see these clothes. Stupid people, well, they don't appreciate it." And the Prime Minister thought, well, I'm clever, I'm wise, yeah, I'm refined, I'm noble, I'll be able to see it. So he went into the room. "Come in, come in, come in." And he could see that on the loom there was absolutely nothing. But he wasn't stupid. He wasn't stupid. He was clever. He was noble. He was refined. He knew he was. So he looked at the fabric and said, "That is excellent fabric. That is exquisite fabric. I shall go and tell the emperor right now. And before you go, Prime Minister, your lordship, will you please come back with some more wine and some more food and some more bags of that fine gold thread? You can see it's working so well on this loom, can't you?" Yes, I'll tell him that and get you some more gold, certainly, and some more wine, some more food. So the Prime Minister went to tell the Emperor, and the Emperor got really, really, really excited. Oh, I can't wait, I can't wait, I can't wait. And he started to think of the shoes. I don't know which shoes to wear with it. I don't know which crown. If only I could see it myself. If only I could see it. Click, clack, click, all wheat went the loom. Glug, glug, glug went the wine. Yummy, yummy, yummy went the fine food that was working their way into the swindlers' tummies. Oh, they were getting quite fat, but they were having such a laugh. And yes, they could have gone at any moment, but they wanted to see how far they could take this prank. They wanted to see how far they could make a fool of the Emperor. Well, eventually, the Emperor was so anxious that he had to go to the room on his own. And actually, they said it was ready. They said it was time for a fitting, time to try his new clothes on. So the Emperor went up to the room, and Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle held up his clothes. You see, Your Majesty, we've finished. Well, we've almost finished. We've almost finished. But we just need to make sure they fit perfectly. We've taken all your measurements. Actually, we didn't take any measurements at all, did we? We forgot to do that bit. So we took your measurements by eye. We did it by eye, didn't we, Mr. Brindle? Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle. We measured by eye. So, Mr. Brindle, would you pass it over, please? Oh, yes. Okay, let's start with the first garment. Yes, here we go, King. King, you're not a king. I'm so sorry. You're an emperor, aren't you? My bad. Okay, here you are, your lordship. Try this on for size. Well, the Emperor, he did feel a little bit foolish. He had taken off his clothes. He was standing in this room just wearing a pair of silk boxer shorts, trying to try on clothes that he couldn't see. And when he put them on, he couldn't feel them. But he wasn't stupid. No, he was the king. No, he wasn't. He was the emperor. The emperor. Well, let's call him a king or an emperor. Who's going to quibble over those titles? He was the emperor, and he was clever. He was refined. He was noble. He most certainly wasn't stupid. So he said, oh yes, these clothes, they fit me so well. They feel so good and they look so lovely. Oh, hold on, Your Majesty, said Mr. Trindle. I'm just going to tuck it in a bit here. Mr. Brindle, pass the pins, thank you. Can you pass me the tape measure, Mr. Brindle? Certainly, Mr. Trindle. Let's measure this bit. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, you look so good. Oh, my goodness me, Your Majesty, you look so good. Let's try this bit on. Okay, let's try this on. Your robes. Oh, my goodness me. Will you just move around a little bit, Your Majesty? Will you just sort of zhuzh a little bit like that? Will you zhuzh a little bit like that? Oh, my goodness me. The way it swings. Oh, you look so handsome. You look so good, doesn't he, Mr. Brindle? Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle. He looks so wonderful. Well, the Emperor was overjoyed with his new clothes. He couldn't wait to show the rest of the kingdom his new clothes. He couldn't wait to show anyone. He would be the only person on the planet wearing such clothes. But the trouble is, he couldn't see them, and he couldn't feel them. But he kept waiting for his ping moment, the moment when everything would make sense, the moment when he could feel the fabrics, the moment when he could see the fabrics, because he knew he was clever, he knew he was wise, he knew he was noble, he knew he wasn't stupid. Anyway, an announcement was made. An announcement was made that the Emperor was going to make a parade through the streets of the city, through the streets. And the Emperor knew he had to be brave. He knew he had to face his fears. He knew that with great clothing and great fashion came great responsibility. And he put on the clothes with Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle's help. And Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle said, "Now your clothes are ready, my lord. Can we have our final payment? 1,000 gold coins should do. Wouldn't that be right, Mr. Brindle?" "Oh, yes, Mr. Trindle." "Certainly," said the emperor, and he handed over a bag of 1,000 gold coins. And Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle, they went off sniggering. That was the end of them, as far as the emperor was concerned. Well, all of the sycophants, the prime minister, the captain, and all the servants and everyone else, they waited for their ping moments. They couldn't see what the emperor was wearing. To them, the emperor was just wearing silk boxer shorts, some fur-lined boots, which Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle had said went so well with the outfit, and a crown. He didn't seem to be wearing clothes, but they weren't stupid. No, they were clever, they were wise, they were noble. So they all said to the king, not the king, the emperor, "Oh, your majesty, you look so refined, you look so amazing, you look so handsome. Oh, your majesty, you look so good." "I do, don't I?" said the emperor. "I look so amazing, don't I?" And the emperor went out onto the streets, and at first everyone gasped. "Oh, the emperor, he's just wearing boots and silk boxer shorts and a crown. But hang on, we're not stupid, no." Because word had gone around that only the clever, only the wise, only the noble, only the refined could see such clothes. So they started clapping. A little bit hesitantly at first, but then the claps turned into whoops. "Woo! Woohoo! Woohoo!" And they started cheering, and they started applauding, and they started hurrahing and hussaring at the emperor as he walked through the streets. And the emperor thought this was the best day of his life. Never had he been so happy. And he walked around like that, and he swung his outfit to the left and to the right, and he allowed the fabric to ripple in the breeze. But he did feel rather cold, but he thought, no, everyone can see it. The captain can see it. The prime minister can see it. All my sycophants can see it, and all my subjects can see the wonderful clothes I'm wearing. But he turned round the corner, and the little boy, who was only 6 years old, said, "The emperor's got no clothes on." "What?" said his mum. "Don't be so silly. Of course he has." "No, Mum, the emperor has got no clothes on." And his mum had her ping moment, and the person next to her had his ping moment, and the person next to him had his ping moment. And it went through the whole crowd saying, "The emperor's got no clothes on. The emperor's got no clothes on." And at first people just looked embarrassed, and then they sniggered. And then people started to laugh. And then people started to guffaw. The emperor, look at him. He's got no clothes on. And this went on for ages and ages and ages. And actually, some people are still laughing about that now, which is why we actually know this story to this very day. Well, the emperor was so embarrassed. He had his ping moment. He realised he had been deceived. He had been tricked by those two swindlers, Mr. Trindle and Mr. Brindle. He was wearing absolutely nothing other than his fur-lined boots, his silk boxer shorts, and his crown. He went bright red, and he ran back into the palace. Well, I have to say, the emperor, he was never, ever vain again. No, he took down all the mirrors from his palace. He gave all his clothes away to charity. And that was that. Apart from, I'll tell you about Mr. Brindle and Mr. Trindle. They realised they'd had enough of the world of fashion the world of fashion was no longer for them. So they turned their minds to conceptual art. And I have to say, very soon they became the darlings of the art world. And there, my friends, we have the end of the Emperor's New Clothes. I really ought to have called it the King's New Clothes, because that would have been easy to remember. But hopefully you enjoyed it. Don't forget about the weekend challenge. Come up with a name for a band that is played by only animals. And in the meantime, if you've enjoyed this and you want more stories to download, visit our website. There are 8 different titles you can get, with the marvellous music of Martin Thornton as well. But stay safe, stay healthy, please look after each other. TTFN. Bye.